Hello and welcome to Stamper School. This is Julie Max and the Maine Stamper. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I live in Maine, USA. These lessons in Stampin' Up! Products are intended to give you the confidence you need in paper crafting, whether you're a complete beginner or an entirely experienced stamper. Today's class is going to be kind of a combination class. We're going to learn a little bit about how to use the brayer. We're going to learn a little bit about the hybrid embossing folder and how to die cut it. So this is going to be a really exciting class. We're using the Thoughtful Moments hybrid embossing folder, and this embossing folder comes with the dies. So you don't buy these separately. These come together, and they are not included with a stamp set. It's not a bundle. This is just a standalone product, but you get both of these items, and they are fantastic to use. But first, before we get started, we're going to have a history lesson. This is Stamping School. History lesson on the brayer. So I have actually Stampin' Up's original brayer here, and I don't know if anyone else has it either, but this is the original, and it has more of a foam rubber. It's a little bit more giving. I feel like if a cat scratched it, they would be able to dent this, and it's also a little bit narrower. The handle is a lot thicker and shorter than the new brayer. So I'm going to kind of put them side by side here so you can see the difference here. The new brayer is really nice. It is definitely a hard plastic, but it still has that little bit of give, I feel, to it. And it's got, I think, more ergonomical handle. So it's easier to grip for sure. And it is definitely longer. So that's your little bit of history lesson on the brayer. We're going to be using this with our ink pad today. And we're going to learn how we're going to take this embossing folder, which is a hybrid, and change our letters from just plain letters to ones that have ink on them for the raised edges so that you can read them. Now this says hello. You can kind of see hopefully a little bit of the texture to it. So it did emboss this hello while it die cut it. This one says love you. Now the dies here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sentiments that come in here. More math, so that's also a school lesson, right? So let's get to the business here of the embossing folder and how this works. So with the hybrid embossing folders, the die is meant to land right in here. So kind of like a puzzle piece. You're going to line it up with your sentiment or your image, whatever you've got, and it will sit in there when it's properly in your folder. It's not going to wiggle around. It doesn't fall from, it kind of locks in like a puzzle piece, let's say. Okay, so this is actually going to go this way on the side of your folder that has the Stampin' Up! Logo. The paper is going to be on the plain side over here. So this is the plain side. There's really not much other than a little label here at the back of it. Now if we put our paper in, and you're going to want to cut a 6x6, this is a 6x6 folder, and we embossed it just like this, you're going to get very plain die cuts out of it. So this is where the brayer, one of the reasons the brayer has come back, I think, is that this is really handy for your embossing folders. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my Poppy Parade ink, and I'm going to use my brayer. And when you use the brayer on your ink pad, you want to treat it kind of like you're painting a wall. I don't know if you've ever used a painter or paint roller to paint your wall, but you're just going to load your roller by going up the pad. You're not going to go back and forth. You're just going to load it going from the bottom to the top. This is going to spin the whole time. So it's kind of spinning, and you're going to just load up your roller and just kind of make sure you have all the paint on it, just like you're painting, right? So you're going to be able to see a little bit of ink, not a lot, but you're going to, obviously this is red on red, so maybe not the greatest of choices for today. And once your roller is all loaded with the ink, you can now paint your embossing folder. I'm going to turn it this way as I actually want to use this side. So we're painting the embossing folder that has the Stampin' Up! Logo on it. This is the same side that the dies are going to hang out on too. So you're just going to run this along your folder, and you're going to see that I'm just going to kind of go up and down. I think I missed a little bit right there. And hopefully now the red is a little bit more obvious on here. So there's a little bit of red here. Now the letters on this side are raised. Just the outline is raised, and that's what we wanted. I'm going to set this aside. I have a silicone mat way off to the side. So I'm setting that to the side. I'm going to rotate this back around because this is really the way that this goes. So now comes the tricky part. We've got to get our die back into this side of our embossing folder, and I don't want to move the ink around too much. So just try to line up your letters perfectly and there may be a little bit of wiggling that you have to do to make sure it's in space. Now it's right in place, so we're good to go there. Now I'm going to put my paper on this side, just like this, and I'm going to very carefully, actually, I'm going to redo this. I'm going to put my paper like this, and then I'm going to fold this over. So there we go. So when I pick this up, you're going to see that you're going to be able to see pretty much a preview of what's going to happen here as soon as we emboss this. First, I'm going to close this ink pad and move this out of the way a little bit more because we are going to die cut it. So we're going to talk about how this goes through the die cutting machine as well. So I'm bringing in my Stamp and Emboss, my Stamp and Cut Emboss machine. I'm going to make sure that I'm putting my folder through with the hinge side going into the rollers first. All I have on here right now is the base plate. Because you're die cutting, and this is a hybrid embossing folder, we're actually going to use the gray plate, which is the number 4 plate, sold separately, but very important. Actually, I think it comes with this. I should say that. I think it comes with this. You can buy it separately. Very important when you're using the hybrid or the 3D and the hybrid embossing folders. It's just going to come through just like this. One pass is all you need. You don't need to go back and forth. This isn't like highly detailed die cutting, but it is pretty fabulous. Let me get rid of my plates here so that we can see what we've got on the other end. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why this works best. The Brayer works way better than other things that you would be using. So let's just check out hello. Check out hello. Hopefully as my camera focuses, if it's able to focus, you can see some red letters here on this. So all of these images now have a little bit of Poppy Parade lettering coming across here, right? So they're fantastic. I'm going to scooch these off of my embossing folder. Now to clean this all up, because you do have to clean up afterwards, you can use the chamois that comes with the glass mat. You can use a regular chamois. So this is the regular chamois that I use for cleaning up my stamps. So again, this is water-based ink. The Stampin' Up! Inks are water-based, so they're going to come off with water. So you could even run these under water in the sink if you wanted to. So we're just going to make sure you get all of the ink off of here. Obviously, if you're going to reuse it in another color, you would want to get all the ink off. You're going to do the same thing with the dies. Even though it doesn't appear that there's any ink on here, I would still wipe these off just in case, because you don't want to transfer that and you don't want the ink on your dies, right? So it's a pretty simple cleanup for sure. It gives you some wow factors, and you can use this with any embossing folder. It doesn't have to be one that you're hybrid embossing. You can use this with any embossing folder, and you're going to be able to create some really cute cards. Now these ones I have used the Poppy, I've used the Pool Party on these ones. So I had a couple of them here that I put onto these card fronts, and just like this, we're going to be able to jazz up our cards. And maybe I'll make this one into a thank you card. Now for the busy pattern here, I would do very similarly like I did this one. I would actually do something behind it to differentiate the pattern from my little sentiment piece here. But you can get some ideas of how cute these are going to be once you put them together. And some of these are big enough to hold a dimensional on the back. This one is lifted up with dimensionals, so that's also really nice. So that is a little look at the hybrid embossing folder. Now also the Brayer. The reason that the Brayer works really well with this technique, this also needs to be cleaned by the way as I'm looking at it. The Brayer is hard rubber. So it's not squishing into all of the little grooves that are inside the embossing folder. For example, if you were to use a blending brush, do I have a blending brush handy? I don't have one handy right now. Here's this is another history lesson. Before blending brushes, there were these things right here. So we had the old rollers. This is soft and foamy and squishy. If you were to put this on here and roll, all of the ink is going to kind of manipulate and squish down. It's going to squish into the places that you don't want it to be. Same thing with a blending brush. If you were to use this on here, and it's gonna really fill everything in. So you're gonna have a complete fill. Now, if you want a complete fill, that's awesome. I would use a blending brush. But if you want just the outline of the words, you want to use something that's going to be hard, that's not going to sink into the surface, and it's only going to hit the upper line. So that's why the Brayer is so different from anything else that we've got on hand right now. It definitely allows you to do different techniques. So the Brayer is really fun to play with. I hope you enjoy playing with your Brayer. And I hope you enjoy playing with your embossing folder too and creating some beautiful projects as well. So thank you so much for joining me for Stamper School today. I hope that you found this class helpful. If you have a product topic you'd like me to cover in a future lesson, comment with your suggestions and ideas. Stay creative and see you in the next session of Stamper School. Bye everybody.